Good morning, everyone. My name is MightyStream. I'm going to do your April the 29th just for today in a meditation. Hope you're having a wonderful morning. Look forward to this meditation. If you need to reach me, feel free to do so at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Okay, the title of the meditation for today: What If? Living just for today relieves the burden of the past and the fear of the future. We learn to take whatever actions are necessary and to leave the results in the hands of our higher power. Basic text, page 94. In our active addiction, fear of the future and what might happen was a reality for many of us. What if we got arrested, lost our job, our spouse died, we went bankrupt, and on and on and on? It was not unusual for us to spend hours, even whole days, thinking about what might happen. We played out entire conversations and scenarios before they ever occurred, then charted our course on the basis of what if. By doing this, we set ourselves up for disappointment after disappointment. From listening in meetings, we learned that living in the present, not the world of what if, is the only way to short circuit our self fulfilling prophecies of doom and gloom. We can only deal with what is real today, not our fearful fantasies of the future. Coming to believe that our higher power has only the best in store for us is one way we can combat that fear. We hear in meetings that our higher power won't give us more than we can handle in one day. And we know from experience that if we ask, the God we've come to understand will surely care for us. We stay clean through adverse situations by practicing our faith in the care of a power greater than ourselves. Each time we do, we become less fearful of what if and more comfortable with what is. Just for today, I will look forward to the future with faith in my higher power. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the wee version of the Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please and thank you. What if? For me, I personally lived in this self-fulfilling prophecy of doom and gloom. And in part, now to be fair, in part because the religion that I was raised around presented that the end of the world was always right there. And you needed to live your life in such a righteous manner so that whenever that day came, that you would be saved. And so my mindset from a very early age was that do no wrong, do no harm, and live another day. Live forever if possible. So I got it fair. But as I began to develop and as I began to get involved with other people and learn how they lived their lives and what their home life was like, and going to school and dealing with individuals that maybe had different higher powers than I had at that time or were being raised secularly compared to how I was being raised, I began to see that my way of thinking was going to be something that I needed to part ways with because what it created in me. Now, let's talk about that. What it created in me, this constant worry and analytical type mindset where you overanalyze everything. And on day one, a situation possibly could happen. And before I know it, I've analyzed all the way into 3 or 4 years past that. And I know exactly what I need to do, when I need to do it, how I need to do it. And I'm suffering from the spirit of fixed managing and controlling so that I can remain safe, so that I can control my environment, my circumstances. So I know me, I know how I'm going to respond, and I don't have to be dependent on anyone else's failures or successes. All I need to do is show up for my own life, right? Projecting the future and rarely showing up for it. Why would I rarely show up for something that I've spent so much time analyzing and predicting and planning for? Because by the time I get done with all of that, I'm so exhausted. I'm so full of fear. I'm consumed with this paralyzing fear. If I do this, this happens. If I don't do this, this happens. If they do that, then I need to do this. And then that's going to force this to happen. And it never stops. It goes on and on and on. Fear absolutely has no end because a person that is fearful will always create the need for them to know what to do and how to do in every situation because they're looking at all circumstances. But the problem with that fearful individual, being myself, is that by the time you get done with that, you're so tired. You worried yourself into the wee hours of the morning and you need to get up in 1 or 2 hours. Um, you've dropped the ball on things that were really present, right? Here and now, because you sat hours contemplating and worrying about how something was going to play out and projecting how you needed to be, how you needed to show up, how you needed to look. And before you know it, the time has gone. You can't even show up for what was important to you because you spent so much time over analyzing or trying to project your presentation in the situation. And now you can't, you can't, there's no participation, right? You can't participate because it's too late. You can't do it because it's gone. The opportunity is no longer there. And the problem is that I won't just stop with that one. I'll continue to do it with the next situation and the next situation. And there's this preoccupation with the future and fear controls it. Or I can have faith in a higher power. It sounds a lot easier to me. I know there's some people that faith in a higher power automatically correlates to God, and God automatically correlates to religion, and religion automatically correlates to something that you swore you would never be involved with. Maybe you have a beautiful life without a higher power. Maybe it's great. But where do you turn to when you fail you? When the faith in the one thing that you're sure of yourself knee surgery or hip surgery, or you find out that you have blocked arteries and you need heart surgery, a triple bypass, or you find out that you have lung cancer, or you find out that your humanity is now going to prevent you from showing up for you because that's how it goes when you're not feeling well, when you're sick. It's human. But there's no compensation for your humanity in these times of trouble or need because you have no higher power, or you've made another human being your higher power. And we know how that goes. So at some point in time, we all have to figure out our step 3. We have to figure it out. It doesn't necessarily mean that we all will end up with the same higher power. That's not likely. That's not likely because we're all individuals. And the addict over in India may have several higher powers. Are you understanding what I'm saying? The addict over in India trying to recover because of their culture may have several higher powers for various situations, various circumstances, family, finances. They will have various higher powers because of the culture. The higher power over in, I don't know, China somewhere for a recovering addict will more than likely look a lot different than my higher power. But here's the key. Can you place faith in this higher power to the degree that you can stop, you can cease to be so fearful? It's human. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying living a life full of fear every day. I'm not going to say it's no life at all because I've lived it and I survived it. And I just absolutely refuse to go back to it. It's very difficult for me to be in the presence. Like, I can't even describe how difficult it is for me to be in the presence of fear-mongering individuals. Like, it quakes it's like a post-traumatic stress disorder or something. It makes my insides shake being in the presence of doom and gloom individuals. And it's deeply rooted in my childhood. And I know that. And so I make sure today that I'm always faith. You know how they say fact checking? I'm always faith checking. Like, are my actions right now the actions of an individual that has a faith in a higher power that they personally chose is the best and absolutely cannot be outdone by any other higher power that they could have chosen? I'm always checking my faith because I just can't go back to the fear, because the fear represents a lower destructive power that the basic text talks about being our disease of addiction, the drug. And I can't get high off of fear today. I refuse to get high off of fear today because fear today is the same as me taking that next one. One is too many and 1,000 is never enough. If you've seen in this meditation that these scenarios we come up with go on and on and on and on and on. Like I said, fear has no end. It just looks for the next situation for you to give breath to, right? It looks for the next situation that I can say, oh, let me worry about this. Let me be fearful about this now. It's not for me. I get as far away from fear as possible. And sometimes the faith that I bring to conquer it is seems minute. It seems like for me, it seems like I barely have enough faith, right? Like going through health situations, like I barely have enough faith to be able to continue to push through day after day and do the things that I've agreed to do, that I've said is important to me. These children I'm raising, my husband, my home, providing for them and making sure that we have what we need in this house to exist. Say, for instance, if we were to lose power again, would I be in at least the situation I was in before, where I was able to store food and make sure that we were clean and that we were fed and that we had light when we needed it? The basics. I'm not talking about a whole lot, right? A lot of the material stuff I don't worry about, but the point is that there's times when my health is like so questionable that I can immediately default to fear about the future. And I just can't do it. I do what I can in the here and now, in today, in my reality. And a lot of the choices I make today, I end up relying on the fruit of those choices tomorrow, or maybe a month or a year from now, not even thinking about it, not even thinking about the fact that I still have tomatoes in my freezer that were planted last summer. And instead of being lazy, I went out there in the backyard and helped pick them, bring them in, clean them, and slice them and bag them and dated them. I still have fruit from last year's harvest. So sometimes what I'm trying to say here, and I know it's going on a bit longer than I would like because I've only had 2 sips of coffee, right? Which might be an indication I need sips of dandelion tea instead. But the point is that when I say that living in faith causes me to live in the here and now and to make choices that may benefit me, more than likely they will tomorrow or in the future. That's just a small example of going to buy some packets of seeds that cost maybe $2 at the most, depending on where you get them, and clearing some land in your backyard. And if you don't have land, getting a 5-gallon bucket of dirt or even just a small, clear, tub, right? Those things that we store clothes in, pots, and planting them and lighting them in your own home, in your own apartment, and growing some things in faith, growing some things that you can benefit and store and use in the future. That's what all this spiritual principles and building them as a result of Narcotics Anonymous is even about. Is making sure that your best self shows up for life without any mind or mood altering substance in your system. Every day in faith, developing your spirituality. Let's keep it simple. So that when something comes up, instead of having to worry about it, you have already planted the seed of love, the seed of faith, the seed of hope, the seed of consistency, the seed of integrity, the seed of faithfulness, the seed of community, the seed of fellowship. You've already planted it. And you've already nurtured it. You've already watered it. You've already lopped off the growth on it that is dead and not useful anymore. those dried leaves. You've already tended to it through your fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth step. You've already done it. So that when the situation comes up, because life is going to happen, you're able to live it on its own terms without having to put one more inside of you, because you already have the tools, the spiritual principles that you need. What if it's no longer an issue anymore because we've already done the work? My name is MightyStream. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I know that you are going to have a beautiful day and do it on purpose. I intend to talk to you soon.